I'm Sarah. I'm 40 years old and have two kids. I'm married to John, who's been a great support for nearly 20 years. Life has had its ups and downs, but I believe it's the people you're close to that make it easier. But then there's my brother Tom. He's 8 years younger than me and tends to make a lot of bad choices. He thinks he deserves things without working for them. Despite our mom's hopes, he hasn't really changed much even though he's 30 now. He's like a project for the family, always needing help. One Sunday, we were all at Mom's house, a place filled with memories from our childhood. We were enjoying Mom's famous roast when Tom barged in with a young woman, clearly pregnant and dressed like she was going to a party. It was a shock for everyone, especially since Tom proudly declared that she was his fiancée. Mom was shocked, dropping her fork, and Lisa, the fiancée, didn't seem bothered by the tension. Tom announced they were getting married and planned to stay with Mom until they found their own place. It worried us all. Tom had a habit of causing chaos wherever he went. After the kids were asleep, John and I discussed how Tom was taking advantage of Mom's kindness. We knew trouble was brewing, and we wondered how much damage Tom would cause before moving on. The next few days were a blur as Tom and Lisa made themselves comfortable in Mom's house. Lisa made herself at home in the living room, treating it like her own personal space. She constantly put her feet up on Mom's antique coffee table. Meanwhile, Tom just sat around on his phone, amused by things no one else found funny. Mom was busy trying to keep up with cooking and cleaning after them, but they never appreciated her efforts. It was like watching someone slowly lose energy. One evening, I found Mom in the kitchen looking worn out. I tried to tell her that she shouldn't let Tom and Lisa take advantage of her, but she insisted they were family and she couldn't turn them away. I wanted to tell her she was being used, but I kept quiet. Family relationships can be complicated, and sometimes you have to ignore the problems because you love them, even if you know it's not right. And so it began, our new normal with Tom and Lisa as ungrateful guests. The rest of us tried to keep the peace in a house that suddenly felt too crowded. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. Living with Tom and Lisa turned our lives upside down. Every morning, Lisa complained loudly about her backache or her cravings, demanding breakfast as if she owned the place. She never said please or thank you. I tried to stay calm, but it was difficult. Tom was no better. He lounged around, yelling for breakfast without lifting a finger to help. Mom tried to brush off their behavior, saying they were just young, but I couldn't accept that excuse. Things only got worse as Lisa's due date approached. She left messes everywhere, spending hours on the phone gossiping. One day, I couldn't take it anymore. I found Lisa with her feet on the coffee table again and told Tom they needed to contribute, like buying a new car for the baby's safety. Lisa dismissed me, saying she was pregnant, as if that excused her behavior. Tom defended her, and Mom begged us not to fight for the sake of the baby. But I couldn't ignore the toll it was taking on Mom. It wasn't fair to her to be running herself ragged for them. But Mom wouldn't listen. Their family, Sarah. What can we do? She'd say. The days dragged on, with Tom and Lisa disappearing for hours, leaving Mom to clean up after them. They'd return with shopping bags, laughing about their day out. One evening, I overheard them planning an extravagant wedding. "We need the best, babe. It's our day," Tom said, his arm around Lisa. She giggled, saying, "And your mom can help with the expenses, right?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I confronted them, but they brushed off my concerns, saying Mom had the money. Life in Mom's house became unbearable. Lisa gave birth to a baby boy, Alex, but instead of slowing down, it gave Tom and Lisa more excuses. One morning, I found Mom washing a mountain of dishes, while Lisa lounged on the sofa with Alex and Tom played on his phone. I asked Mom why she was doing all the work, and she just sighed, saying Lisa needed to rest, and Tom was busy. Lisa snapped at me, saying she had just had a baby and wasn't supposed to stress herself. Tom didn't even bother looking up, dismissing me. I couldn't believe their attitude. Mom tried to calm me down, but I was fed up. I told them it wasn't okay for Mom to be their servant. But they didn't care. They'd leave Mom to take care of Alex for hours and come back bragging about their shopping deals. One day, I found a receipt on the table for a designer dress that Lisa had bought, costing more than what most people make in a week. I confronted Tom and asked where they got the money for it, and why Mom was paying for their lifestyle. Tom shrugged, saying Mom was their mom and she wanted to help. I was furious, telling them they were bleeding her dry. Lisa chimed in, smirking, saying if Mom was willing, why not? I couldn't take it anymore. I had to talk to Mom alone. I told her she couldn't keep giving them money because they were using her. Mom shook her head, saying she couldn't abandon them, especially not with Alex. I tried to reason with her, but they weren't even trying to be responsible. Tom wasn't looking for a job, and Lisa was spending Mom's money recklessly. Mom looked away, whispering that she knew, but they were her children and she had to help them. I felt helpless watching my family fall apart. Tom and Lisa were draining everything and giving nothing back, and Mom was too kind to see it. I didn't know how much more I could take. The breaking point was near, and I feared what would happen when we finally reached it. Things took a turn for the worse when Mom suddenly fell ill. It happened so fast. One day she was her usual self, and the next she was bedridden, looking frail and weak. I was by her bedside, holding her hand, telling her she would get through this. She smiled tiredly, saying she was just worn out. Tom and Lisa were nowhere to be seen, probably out spending more of Mom's money. I couldn't hide my anger anymore. I asked Mom where they were and why they weren't helping. Mom's eyes were sad as she said they had their own lives and not to be too hard on them. But I couldn't let it go. They were living off Mom, and now when she needed them the most, they were absent. Mom passed away quietly one night, with me by her side. Tom and Lisa were out, probably having the time of their lives, oblivious to the tragedy at home. The funeral was a blur. Tom and Lisa arrived looking like they were going to a party, not mourning a loss. Lisa's dress was flashy and inappropriate, even for a funeral. People murmured, and John squeezed my hand, trying to offer comfort. After the service, Tom pulled me aside. "Sarah, we need to talk about Mom's will." I was still in shock from losing Mom. "Now, can't this wait, Tom?" I asked, but he was insistent. "No, it can't. I know she left the house to me. We need to sort this out." I couldn't believe his audacity. "Tom, Mom just died. Can't you show a little respect?" But he was relentless. "This is important, Sarah. I'm her son. I deserve it." The day after the funeral, I went to Mom's house to start sorting through her things. But when I got there, Lisa answered the door with a smug look. "What do you want, Sarah?" she sneered. I was taken aback. "I came to collect some of Mom's things." Lisa laughed harshly. "Oh, you didn't hear? This is our house now. Tom got everything." Tom appeared behind her, grinning. "Yeah, Sarah, Mom changed her will. The house, the money, it's all mine." I felt a surge of anger and disbelief. "You're lying. Mom would never do that." Tom shrugged. "Believe what you want, but the will is clear. This is my house now." I stood there on the doorstep of the house I grew up in, feeling like a stranger. The realization hit me hard. Not only had I lost my mother, but now I was losing my childhood home to my greedy brother and his manipulative wife. As I walked away, I knew this wasn't the end. I had to fight back for Mom, for my family, and for what was right. But little did I know, the battle ahead would be tougher than anything I'd faced before. I was a bundle of nerves as I walked into the notary's office. The whole situation felt like a bad dream. Losing Mom was hard enough, but fighting with Tom over her was something I never imagined. The notary, Mr. Jacobs, was an old family friend. He looked up as I entered, his face somber. "Sarah, I'm sorry for your loss. Let's get straight to the matter at hand," he said. I nodded, trying to steady my voice. "Mr. Jacobs, Tom says Mom left everything to him. That can't be true." Mr. Jacobs shuffled some papers. "Well, let's see what the will says." Just then, Tom and Lisa walked in, all smugness and arrogance. Lisa gave me a triumphant smirk, ready to lose Sarah. I ignored her, focusing on Mr. Jacobs. He cleared his throat and began reading the will. My heart was pounding in my chest as he read. And to my son, Tom, I leave. I braced myself for the worst. But then Mr. Jacobs said something that made my heart leap. The sum of $5,000. Tom's face fell. What? That's it? Mr. Jacobs continued. And to my daughter Sarah, I leave the family home and the remainder of my estate. I couldn't believe it. Relief and disbelief washed over me. Lisa was furious. That's impossible. She promised us the house. Mr. Jacobs looked at them sternly. There's more. It appears your mother made this last will a month ago after expressing concerns about undue pressure from certain family members. Tom was red with anger. She wanted me to have the house. I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice. Mom knew what you were doing, Tom. She knew you were using her. Tom turned to me, his eyes blazing. You did this. You turned her against me. Lisa chimed in, her voice shrill. We'll contest this. We'll get a lawyer. Mr. Jacobs raised an eyebrow. You're free to do so. But be aware, if it's found that there was any coercion involved in the previous will, there could be legal consequences. Tom and Lisa looked at each other, their confidence wavering. I stood up, feeling stronger than I had in months. Mom saw through your greed. She made sure her last wishes were respected. Tom stormed out, cursing under his breath, with Lisa trailing behind him. I stayed back, thanking Mr. Jacobs. As I left the office, I felt a mix of emotions: sadness for losing Mom, relief that her last wishes were honored, and lingering anger at Tom and Lisa's audacity. It was a regular afternoon when Tom stormed into the house, his face red with anger and disbelief. $100,000 for you and just a measly $5,000 for me? How is that fair, Sarah? I was sorting through some of Mom's papers. His outburst made me pause. Tom, that's what Mom decided. You know she always had her reasons. He slammed his hand on the table, making me jump. Reasons? What reasons could she possibly have to screw me over like this? I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. Maybe because you and Lisa have been bleeding her dry for years, I said. Tom's face contorted with rage. That's what we deserve, that money. That's when I found it, tucked away in a drawer, a letter from Mom. Her handwriting was unmistakable. I pulled it out and started reading. Tom's eyes were fixed on me, a mix of curiosity and fear. What's that? He asked. It's from Mom, I said, my voice steady. She explains everything here. The letter laid it out in black and white. Mom had originally set aside $100,000 each for Tom and me, but as Tom and Lisa's demands for money grew, she started deducting from his share. I looked up at Tom, his face a picture of shock. By the time she wrote her last will, you'd already taken $95,000, Tom. There was only $5,000 left. Tom staggered back as if he'd been physically hit. No, that can't be true, he muttered. I felt the surge of anger. It's all here, Tom. Every cent you and Lisa took, it came out of your inheritance. He looked lost, his eyes darting around the room. But I didn't know, he whispered. That's the problem, Tom. You never knew or cared to know. I snapped, my patience wearing thin. He slumped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. What have I done, Sarah? I put the letter down, feeling a mix of pity and frustration. You've only got yourself to blame, Tom. You chose this path. Tom left the house that day a broken man. I watched him go, feeling a sense of justice, but also a deep sadness. Our family was torn apart not just by grief, but by greed and ignorance. The house, once a battleground of family feuds, was now eerily quiet. Tom and Lisa had left, cutting off all contact with me. It was a relief and a curse, leaving me to wrestle with the aftermath of their chaos. As I sat in the living room, staring at the walls that had witnessed so much, my friend Jenna called. Sarah, have you heard about Tom? She asked. I braced myself. No, what now? Jenna hesitated. He's been spotted around town looking for jobs, and Lisa? She's been seen with different men, flaunting around like she's single. My heart sank. And Alex, their son? I asked. No sign of him, Sarah. It's like they'd forgotten they have a child. I slammed my fist on the table, fury boiling inside me. They're irresponsible, selfish. They don't deserve a child. Jenna tried to calm me. Sarah, maybe there's something you can do. Her words sparked an idea. You're right, I said. I'll fight for Alex. He shouldn't suffer because of them. The next day, I met with a lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Miss Rivera. I explained everything, my voice trembling with determination. So you want to pursue custody of your nephew? Miss Rivera asked, her eyes sharp. I nodded firmly. Yes, he's in a toxic environment. I want to give him a better life. Miss Rivera leaned forward. It won't be easy, Sarah. But if you're ready to fight, I'm with you. I felt a surge of resolve. I'm ready, whatever it takes. The legal battle that followed was tough. Tom and Lisa were unpredictable, sometimes cooperative, sometimes hostile, but I didn't back down. One evening, after a particularly grueling day in court, John wrapped his arms around me. You're doing the right thing, Sarah. It's hard, but right. I leaned into his embrace, exhausted but hopeful. I just want Alex to be safe, to have a family that cares. The day the judge granted me temporary custody of Alex was bittersweet. He was a sweet boy, confused and scared, but he slowly opened up to us. Emily and Max adored him, and he brought a new kind of joy into our home. Tom's reaction was a mix of anger and defeat. You've taken everything from me, Sarah, he said. I faced him, my voice unwavering. I'm protecting Alex, something you should have done. As Tom stormed off, I realized our relationship might never be repaired, but this wasn't about us. It was about a little boy who needed a stable home life. With Alex, there were challenges, but also laughter and love. He was becoming a part of our family, and I was determined to make it permanent. Looking back, I knew I'd made the right decision. It was time for new beginnings for all of us, a chance to heal, to grow, and to build a future filled with love and stability. That was the legacy I wanted to leave, a stark contrast to the selfishness and greed that had once threatened to tear us apart. The house, once a reminder of familial discord, was now filled with laughter and the pitter-patter of little feet. Alex had become a part of our lives, his presence a constant source of joy and wonder. One evening, as we were tucking him into bed, he looked up at me with those big innocent eyes. Aunt Sarah, am I going to stay here forever? I smoothed his hair, my heart swelling. Yes, Alex, you're part of our family now. He smiled, his tiny hand gripping mine. I like it here. Emily and Max are fun. I kissed his forehead. We love having you here, sweetie. As I walked out of his room, John was waiting, a proud smile on his face. He's really settling in, isn't he? I nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment. He is. We're giving him the life he deserves. The next day, I received a call from Miss Rivera. Sarah, it's official. The court has granted you full custody of Alex. I nearly dropped the phone, tears of happiness welling up. Thank you, Miss Rivera. Thank you for everything. After hanging up, I shared the news with the family. Emily and Max cheered, hugging Alex in a group embrace. Even John had tears in his eyes. We're a family, John said, his voice choked with emotion. A real, complete family. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but we had come out stronger. In the months that followed, Alex blossomed. He was no longer the timid boy we first met. He was confident, happy, and loved. One day, while we were all in the garden, Alex came running up to me, a dandelion in his hand. Look, Aunt Sarah, I made a wish. I crouched down to his level. And what did you wish for? He grinned, his eyes sparkling. I wished we'd all be together forever. I hugged him tight. That's the best wish, Alex, and it's come true. As I looked around at my family, I felt a deep sense of peace. We had weathered the storm and emerged stronger. Our future was filled with hope, love, and the promise of new beginnings. This was our story, a testament to the strength of family and the power of love. It was a future of hope, and we were ready to embrace it with open arms.